Hi, I'm Michael from Dyslexia Improvements. It's good to be with you today. Today we're going to chat about some of the biggest mistakes that parents can make when their kids are struggling at school. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that I see parents make, and I'm guilty of this as well, is that often we'll be okay about teachers saying to us, let's have a wait and see approach. Let's see if next year with the new teacher things are better. Let's see if in a couple of months' time as your child's become a bit more mature, if these problems that your child is dealing with have just magically gone away. And I think all parents have a high degree of optimism because you couldn't continue to be a parent if you weren't optimistic about the future. You know, if you didn't think things would get better, we'd fall apart. But applying that to our kids when they're struggling at school is not going to help. Statistically, the kids who start a bit behind, without intervention, they're going to continue to stay behind. And that's not what you want for your child. So the wait and see approach, or I guess you could say the wait and see trap, is something that you want to avoid because it's an excuse for not taking action. It's more comfortable, it's more convenient, but it's not what your child needs. Now, another big mistake that I see a lot of us parents making is that we're putting responsibility for our child's learning, especially in things like reading and writing troubles. We're putting responsibility for our child's learning into other people's hands. So it could be in the teacher's hands. It could be that you've gone and seen a specialist and the specialist told you, do this and do that. Or it could be that you waited on the list for a specialist for 3 months, 6 months, who knows how long. And you're putting your child's destiny in someone else's hands. And that's dangerous because that other person, they might care about your child, but they don't care as much as you do. And they don't quite value your child the way you do. Only you love your child the way you do. And so it's important that as parents, when things are not on track, we need to take ownership of that. We need to take responsibility for it. We need to be willing to put in the extra time at home to help. We need to be willing to put in extra time to find out how to help, go and get good advice, and then put into practice what you need to, because putting things in other people's court is not going to help your child. Now, something else that as a parent I know I'm quite guilty of at times is that it's sort of the play now and pay later approach. In our society we're all about credit cards, we're all about the now, the moment, and we're not always thinking of the long term, otherwise half of us would have our mortgages paid off a lot sooner than we do. So the mistake here is sort of taking the approach that, my child right now needs help, but I'm busy today, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, my child's in a bad mood. Whatever the excuse is, at the end of the day, if there's an issue with your child's reading or writing or whatever, they need that dealt with ASAP. And so just putting it off till next week, putting it off till next month, before you know it, months have gone by and your child's not in a better spot, they're in a worse spot because they've slipped further and further behind. Not good, easy mistake to make. We need to make our child's learning a now issue and not just, it'll wait. We need to take our child's learning seriously enough that if there's issues now, we deal with them now. Now, something else that can really cause our kids to come unstuck is when we don't look for the obvious things first, okay? So say with my daughter, my wife and I were a bit worried about her eyesight the other day because we watched her watching TV and her eyes were a bit red, a little bit watery. We're like, oh, what's going on there? Not good. And so as soon as you can see your child in that spot, you want to go and get them to have an eyesight test. Now, it took my wife and I probably a week to organise that. A week's not that big a deal. If it had taken us 3 months, that's a pretty big deal, So when things are not on track, the first thing you want to do is get an eyesight test. Kids don't know when everyone else is not seeing the world they are. Like, see, right now, I wear glasses a lot of the time. And I'm looking around, I can't read signs in the distance and stuff like that. But if I was a kid, I'd assume that everyone else as well couldn't read those signs. And it's not the case. Another thing to check early on is your child's hearing. Now, that's probably one of the last things we think of. If our child's not responding to things, we think, our child's being lazy, our child's just, they're not in the zone, they're tired. Well, check out the hearing. It's very straightforward to get a hearing test. And a lot of kids, especially younger kids, they've got hearing issues that are undetected. And that means that their speech is sort of slightly delayed. It doesn't need to be that way. Just go to the doctor and get a referral for a hearing test if you think things are not quite on track. And something else that you want to look for, that you want to test for early, is, does your child have dyslexia? If it's the sort of visual, words moving, sort of scotopic sensitivity dyslexia, well, that's a matter of just finding out what the words are doing on the page when your child is reading from white. If it's phonological dyslexia or auditory dyslexia, basically the child doesn't see the words moving, but there's a bit of a broken system between the words going from here up to here and then being recognised for what they are and the meaning being pulled out of those letters. So, if you're worried, you want to get onto that. And then the last big mistake that I'm sometimes guilty of, I hate to admit it, but it's true, is that we as parents, we're very quick to play the blame game, okay? Something's going wrong in our kid's life and we're like, right, who can I blame? Was it the school? They better look out. Was it my parents? Have they not been looking after my kids well enough? Was it my wife? Was it whatever? Am I the failure? Is it my fault? Well, at the end of the day, where does that actually get you? Even if you could pin down the blame on one person in particular and declare this is 100% your fault, well, how does that actually help your child? So blame and excuse and just lashing out, it doesn't achieve what you want to achieve. So avoid that mistake. When there's a problem, fix it. Deal with it. Deal with it however you have to, but don't just blame. So I'm Michael from dyslexiaimprovements.com, and I just encourage you parents, if things are not on track, find out why and do something about it.